Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. Well, just a few days ago, I showed you a bunch of old Wonder Woman primarily from the 70s and 80s, right? Well, we're going to take a look, have a deep dive into a Wonder Woman comic. This is number 233, and this was not one that I showed in that video. But this is a cool one. Here we have, oh, Wonder Woman in danger. She's in the mouth of some giant monster. Oh, the huge teeth and stuff. This is a great Gray Morrow cover illustration. It says, monstrous, merciless, the jaws of the Leviathan. Yeah. Yeah. And this is, ooh. Okay, Wonder Woman number 233 from 1977, DC Comics. And of course, Wonder Woman is created by Charles Moulton. Way back in, what was it, 40 or 41, I've forgotten what year. And this is written by Gerry Conway. Been coming across a lot of Gerry Conway written stuff lately. With pencils by Don Heck. That was a kind of a change for him doing Wonder Woman. With inks by Vince Colletta, who is a common Wonder Woman inker and inker on a whole bunch of stuff for Marvel and DC in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And of course, Vince Colletta gets a lot of flack, a lot of it justifiable, for his inking, but he also has to get credit for where credit is due. He was fast. He was a very competent artist, and he had I think largely because of his long history in doing romance comics, he had a knack for making other artists' women look lovelier, as is the case here, because Don Heck, was a very, very competent artist, but and he did nice women, but Vince Coletta's inking on his female figures, most particularly in the face, make them look a lot lovelier than they would have before. Okay, so Don Heck, he was from 1929 to 1995, American comic artist with a long history of work at Marvel Comics, associated with and co-created Iron Man, Wasp, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Wonder Man, and a longtime artist on the Avengers, all primarily during the Silver Age. He started his career at Harvey Comics in production, then moved over to Comics Media, the Comics Media Company, and started his penciling on War Fury #1 and in Weird Terror number 1. And he continued in pre-code horror for the next few years, as well as doing westerns. And he was a very competent artist. Not my favorite by any means, but I don't denigrate his work or the quality of his work. It just isn't as pleasing as a lot of others. And I think it is his work here is a little more pleasing with this with Vince Coletta's inks on it. In this particular, at least in this particular story. And he did, no, I'm thinking of, I sometimes get Don Heck and Dick Ayers confused, and what I was thinking of as an example of Don Heck, I think now is Dick Ayers. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So we'll take a look in here. Wonder Woman. Okay, this is 1977. This is at the time during shortly after the Wonder Woman TV movie and the first season of the Wonder Woman TV show, which were all set in World War II. And that's for a time about a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years. The comics set her in the back in World War II era, and that's where this story takes place. I like the World War II stories. Of course, I like the others as well. And that's where we are. Is in Washington D.C. or outside there, a munitions plant, and Wonder Woman is busting up a bunch of saboteurs. She just happened to spot. Before we get into that, I want to at this hostess advertisement: Batman and Robin and Birds of a Feather. And here's this this bird lady. She's a pigeon person, and she's controlling these birds, and they're stealing the Statue of Liberty, which is pretty silly. But I would have thought this would have been better with since she's a pigeon person, it would have been better with a Hawkman or Hawk Girl story deal in that. But Batman was bigger. Okay, and this is Sea Death. And Don Heck was real good at drawing goons, because they looked very goony. The goods. And she's beating the crap out of all these guys. Wham, wham, and they start deflecting their bullets, which sounds pretty damn dangerous if you ask me. Firing automatic weapons in a munitions plant. It's a good way to get yourself and everybody else all blown up. But she takes him down. She lassos one with her magic lasso and makes him tell her the truth, as her lasso does, and about who is the mastermind behind this. And all he can tell her is that their contact is the code name Armageddon. And I saw in another book, just flipping through, that this pays off later with this character called Armageddon. Anyway, but they know nothing about him. They don't know who he is, where he is, anything like that. So here they are getting hauled off to military prison because they are saboteurs, and she changes back into Yeoman Diana Prince, because she's supposed to be meeting Steve Trevor. Now, Steve Trevor is recovering from an injury from a previous issue, and he is sidelined for the time being, and he feeling pretty depressed about it, and she's trying to raise his spirits. Then the scene shifts to somewhere out in the Atlantic. There is a ship hauling material for the war, probably to England, and they are suddenly, holy cow, what's this? Suddenly being attacked by a whole pod of whales, probably supposed to be sperm whales, because they are the largest carnivorous or toothed whales, and these are toothy. They look almost like killer whales, but they wouldn't be big enough. And they, in mass, attack this ship and smash it and start sinking it, and everyone is abandoned ship. Then a U-boat, German U-boat, surfaces and starts blasting away and slaughtering all of the sailors. Brap, 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 in cruel fashion, because this is a mean, evil U-boat captain. Only one crew member managed to survive. Then the next day they hear about the destruction and all this. It sounds pretty weird. So Diana hears about this, turns into Wonder Woman, gets in her invisible jet or plane. Remember, actually, during the war years, they had the invisible plane had a propeller, and that jet was later, but that doesn't matter. And as she gets to those coordinates, her plane is attacked by a swarm of flying fish. What? Which accidentally causes her to dip, because she was flying fairly low, dip her wing in the water, and so she plunges into the depths, and it's knocked unconscious. And then when she comes to, she is in the submarine with her own lasso wrapped around her, and it is the evil submarine commander holding the other end of the line, and makes her submit. And now he's going to eliminate her with a an anchor and chain wrapped around her neck while she's still tied up by the lasso, puts her in the torpedo tube, and poof, shoots her to sea, thinking, of course, that's going to kill her. But now that he's no longer has hold of the magic lasso, he doesn't have any power over her. She breaks herself free, and then she turns around and she attacks the submarine, ripping off the periscope, starting flooding. They have to do an emergency blow and surface, and then she starts cleaning house, brap, 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 and of course deflecting the bullets back at the crewmen, and then suddenly, whoosh, holy crow! It's a giant sea monster, which is they're calling the Leviathan, and it comes up next to the boat, and it just snatches her up and takes off. Meanwhile, back in Washington, Steve Trevor is being attacked by a bunch of Nazi spy goons, and he puts up a good show, a good accounting of himself, considering he is injured and handicapped, but they knock him out and take him off. That is to pay off sometime later. Meanwhile, the sea monster is off with Wonder Woman in his mouth, and the captain brings up Friedrich. Is that his name? Yeah, Friedrich. He is, and he is basically a prisoner. Oh, I didn't notice this before. The captain has a hook for a hand. I didn't notice that before. And has him witness what he is doing. So he has some ability. He is a Jewish. We don't know whether he's a scientist or some mystic or what have you, but it is through him that they are controlling the sea life, and it is and they are controlling him by holding his family hostage. So he has to. Well, then we're back to the sea monster with Wonder Woman in his mouth, and she goes, "Holy crap! What am I going to do?" She's trying to hold the mouth at bay, and then dun dun dun, continued next issue. Oh, I hate that. And death, my destiny. Oh, the continued next issue. What might well be the last battle of the Amazon's career. And here's some ads for a bunch of other DC with supervillains, the Freedom Fighters, and Return of the New Gods. And dun dun dun. That is all we've got for Wonder Woman number 233. Oh, what happens? Does she die? Does the critter swallow her? Oh. No, obviously not. But but we don't know how she gets out of the deal. And it's wrong time period for Aquaman, so he can't interject and help. But some nice artwork, nice visual storytelling, a fun yarn all around. So that's all I've got for you with Wonder Woman number 233 from 1977. Leave your comments down below and tell me, what do you think of this version of Wonder Woman? What version of Wonder Woman do you like best? Do you like the contemporary Wonder Woman? Do you like the stuff from the 80s, the 70s, what have you? Or do you just like all of them? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, comics are art.